Tabled yesterday by the Environment Planning Committee into the inquiry into the long-term lease of the land titles and registry functions of Land Use Victoria. Once again, I note my thanks to the Chair, the committee members and the Secretariat staff, particularly given the short-term nature of this inquiry and the amount that we had to canvass through that. In referring this matter to the inquiry, I spoke in a previous debate to the serious concerns the Greens had about the Labor government's proposal to privatise core functions and services of the Land Titles Office. Here in Victoria, we are one of the most privatised states in the nation, following Jeff Kennett's sell-off of $30 billion worth of assets in the 1990s, including an entire energy system, ports, state banks, prisons, Tabcorp. 45,000 jobs were lost, 300 public schools closed, and funding to hospitals was decimated. Future governments, including this Labor government, continued down this path of privatisation of our road system through toll roads, the vocational education system, trains, trams, buses being run for private profit, community services and public housing sell-offs that are really devastating our community. The number of privatisations, according to the report from the People's Inquiry into Privatisation, is 118 and counting in Victoria. And Victorians are feeling this impact of this agenda because their prices and cost of living are going up. There's growing inequality as they see big corporations make huge profits from services that should be publicly run and that are in the public interest. The inquiry into the sale of functions of the Land Titles Office looked at the implications of the privatisation on the land use system in Victoria. It particularly looked at the risk to the privacy and security of sensitive data, the impact on costs and service levels, impact on job security and potential job losses, and the proposed financial arrangements, and reviewed whether this made good financial and economic sense. It also looked at other models, locally and international, that had similar experiences. It's worth noting the breadth of work that the Land Registry Service provides in Victoria, including issuing of certificates, changing title details, replacing lost or destroyed titles, applications to change property boundaries, land data, which is all the title survey and property sales information in Victoria, amongst so much other valuable information that passes through this office. Some of the most valuable data that we have in Victoria that's proposed to be privatised. And the scale of their work is incredible, with over 850,000 land transactions in a year, over 9,000 subdivisions, creation of 65,000 new parcels of land, and the list goes on in terms of the work they do. When the inquiry began, it became very clear there was a lot of confusion and lack of information, transparency and clarity about what parts of the service were set to be privatised, including from key stakeholders that would be implicated by this privatisation. The committee was told that the aspects that would be privatised would be the registration functions, the land data system, and part of the system's functions. The inquiry received a wide range of submissions, and thank everyone who made submissions and came and gave evidence at the hearings. And the overwhelming majority of the submissions opposed the privatisation and the long-term lease that's proposed by this government. There were a range of submissions and evidence given at the hearings that revealed that key stakeholders had been inadequately consulted or not consulted at all. And some of that was attempted to be caught up during the process of the inquiry. The key concerns that remained throughout the inquiry, and remain still since the inquiry completed its deliberation, is essentially about the privatisation of what is an essentially monopoly service, the lack of a long-term economic rationale for this privatisation, and key to all of this is data security and integrity, and the potential risk to this valuable land titles data. When you privatise a monopoly service, essentially what you're introducing is a service like this without any competition, and we've seen what's happening with the e-conveyancing system PEXA, which is essentially supposed to be in a deregulated environment, but there are no competitors. What does that mean? Prices go up and you don't get improved services. There seemed to be such an unquestioned faith that the market would deliver innovation and reduce costs, but when pressed, there was hardly any evidence to suggest that it being retained in public hands couldn't drive that same innovation and new products. We've seen what's happened with the PEXA system with costs that have started to increase already. We saw data breaches recently with the e-conveyancing system, the PEXA system once again, and we heard during the submissions that PEXA said, well, it wasn't our breach, it was a system weakness on another part. But Victorians just don't buy that. This is valuable land data that should be protected for the public interest, and that has not been guaranteed. Data security issues remained at the forefront, and we looked at questions about information privacy and integrity, and this privatisation should be legislated, not just regulated. That would protect Victorians in a much stronger way. The inquiry, I believe, found that there was no compelling evidence about why the Land Titles Office should be privatised.